So Cyberpunk 2077 just got another massive leak for its upcoming content, a full list of all the 17 DLCs and expansions planned for the game, and their names have been leaked online on Reddit, by the way, so we're gonna check that in just a little bit. It actually looks pretty interesting. There's quite a bit of content out there that seems to be planned for the game, including a new Game Plus feature, new vehicles, new versions of vehicles, also a way to purchase an apartment. At very least one apartment is being confirmed to be buyable, but there's quite a bit more on top, and we will also talk about those paid expansions, so let's jump right into it. But a huge shout out to Saint Pirate over on Reddit, because he came in with this really awesome Cyberpunk free DLC and expansions name leak. We're gonna check that in just a little bit. Like, the full list of 17 DLCs is right here, and we can have a small indication of what each of them will do, but we don't really have the order in which they will be released. But he goes on to explain that in April he was searching for cut content, and he went into the text files of the game and found references to something called EP-1 with a new quest from Mr. Hands, which is one of the fixers in Pacifica, by the way, and he is also the one that we didn't see the face of unless you got a bug in the game that kind of does that. But he forgot about it for a long time, and after digging into leaked source code, he found a list of DLCs and 2 expansions with the name EP1 and EP2. A day later, I remembered my April find and realized that EP1 is most likely going to be an expansion. And here is the detail on that expansion. Of course, he also posted a file over here of his findings, but we're gonna go over that in just a little bit. So expansion number 1 is supposed to expand the Pacifica neighborhood and should add a brand new combat zone, according to him, with new quests and locations, as well as with new long history. And yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense for CD Projekt Red to focus their first expansion on the Pacifica district, especially since, yeah, funny enough, from both a lore point of view and also a gameplay point of view, this very district is unfinished. It was supposed to be this really high-end, rich kind of neighborhood for the corpos, but it got abandoned midway through, and now it is inhabited mostly by gangs, and it's also a pretty lawless area with very few police activity, so it makes sense to expand on that. But also there's about half of it that is inaccessible in-game. You can see it from far away, but it's off limits, and you can only visit it if you glitch through the game and kinda go through it and check that other side of it, which isn't finished, by the way, if you were wondering. So having the first expansion focused on this makes a lot of sense, and I think a lot of people would be really glad to see more of Pacifica. But as he mentions further, expect these expansions to kind of act like how CD Projekt Red handled The Witcher 3 DLC plans. So we're gonna get about a dozen or so free DLCs of smaller sizes. We're gonna check that in just a little bit, but also 2 paid expansions. In this case, it seems very similar to Witcher 3's route, which got Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone. Now, unfortunately, there's not much information on expansion number 2. It's also very likely that CD Projekt Red hasn't even begun any significant work on it yet, since they are very likely still engaged with expansion number 1, and according to the same leaker, it's likely going to drop early 2022. So he goes on further to mention this. Also, text about new quests from Mr. Hands got added after patch 1.2. Before, he was not in the game. That means one thing: they are working on expansion number 1 right now, and we can get it in early 2022, he mentions, because one part of the team has already started the development of this expansion. And I think it would make sense. Again, they haven't posted too much news lately. For over 6 months they have gone pretty quiet, with the exception of, you know, some of the stats they released and also some of the patch bug fixes they released, but they kept pretty quiet on any upcoming content whatsoever. There was also this developer stream that we had a few days ago, where one of the people working on the game has mentioned why CD Projekt Red isn't doing that anymore. It seems that they are taking some of the really hard lessons that they have learned from Cyberpunk 2077, and one of those lessons is to stop hyping things up and instead just work on your stuff and release it when it's ready. CD Projekt Red is confirmed to definitely be working on expansions and future DLC DLCs. It's just that they're very tight-lipped right now, and it makes a lot of sense considering the backlash that they have received in the past. So you can go ahead and, by the way, check expansion number 1 if you want to. The user posted here a file that you can go ahead and check out. There's many references towards these expansions as well as a few more. You can use CP77 tools, by the way, in order to do that. But what is the takeaway here? Well, the takeaway is that this is likely going to follow a similar route to Witcher 3's expansion cycle. So we will likely get a dozen or so free DLCs, as it's obviously implied here, as well as at least a couple of paid expansions. In the case of Witcher 3, it was Blood and Wine and Hearts of Stone. In this case, it's Pacifica and something else that we don't know yet. But there's a few more things in the leak that got me quite surprised. 4 of them are related to brand new gigs in some of the neighborhoods in the game, and yeah, these are as follows, by the way. They look something like this. It's called KAB01, ARR06, and ARR12, and JPN09. I think it's a pretty safe bet that these are references to Kabuki, Arayo, and Japantown districts, and it's very likely that we're gonna see some brand new fixer contracts in there with some of these new DLCs. So 4 of the DLCs are going to focus towards these new fixer contracts in these specific regions. But there's 4 more which are going to be cosmetic related. So we are supposed to get a few DLCs regarding new jackets, new poses for the photo mode, something related to the mirror according to this user right here, and something related to the appearance. So I very much doubt that CD Projekt Red didn't take into account the fact that we really want a barber shop in the game, and it's one of the most requested features. I really doubt CD Projekt Red will not add that at some point. They did so pretty much the same with Witcher 3, which didn't have a barber at first, but then it got released as a DLC. So I think the plan is pretty clear right now. There's also a pretty odd DLC number 10 called Monster, and it makes me wonder if CD Projekt Red is planning any new enemy types in one of these DLCs, maybe related to some kind of new activity or some new quest, or maybe just a new type of boss in the game entirely, and maybe it's that DLC number 10 that revolves around that. Who knows? It looks very interesting. There's a few more on there as well, including one that mentions apartments. So we don't really know exactly what this would do. Like, there is a mention of an apartment over there. We don't really know if you can buy it, if you can sell it, or if you can rent it or just decorate it. I would expect it's just the apartment that V lives in that gets a few more decorations. I think they're not going to make a viable, you know, like real estate and all of that. I don't think that they will add that in only one small DLC in Cyberpunk. That would require a bigger expansion or something more significant than just a small DLC. But there's 4 still secret DLCs that we don't really know yet, called SWP, PWP, TWP, and one user over on Reddit kinda you know, made clear what these actually mean. So these are probably gonna be weapons related. So WP means weapon spec, S means smart weapons, P power weapons, T thermal or tech, most likely tech, and B blunt weapons. So it's very likely that these 4 secret DLCs are gonna be weapons related, and kind of like in Witcher 3 that also added items in the game like armor sets and weapons. It's likely CD Projekt Red will do this again with Cyberpunk 2077, and yeah, just add some cool new stuff in there for us to play and enjoy. Again, this is the list right here with all of the DLCs that are supposed to come in the game. We still have no idea what one of them means, or if there's going to be something different to the ones that we already talked about, but so far I'm glad that they planned so far ahead and went in so much detail in getting ready with DLCs. I think that if you waited for up until 2022, you're probably gonna have a lot more fun with the game once it gets its roll on some of the upcoming expansions and additional content. This is it though with the recent news and leaks. Thanks so much for watching. Totally let me know down below which one of these DLCs or expansions do you find the most interesting, and I will see you guys in the next one.